But we'll start with probably the biggest story of the week in sad news. Obviously, Psycho Sid Vicious. Going back to Golden Era Wrestling and beyond.
Sid Justice,
both,
all the names.
Yeah, Sid Justice. I mean, going back to like both promotions, made a name for himself in two of the biggest promotions, WWF, WCW. Unfortunately, passed away. I didn't know he was battling cancer.
I didn't either. Nobody knew.
It was a surprise.
It was. He kept it to himself. I had watched. I watched kind of going down the rabbit hole, as I'm sure you all can imagine, or have done yourself, about his passing and different things. And there was a few different wrestlers who said they had saw him recently and had no idea. He looked great. He was smiling. He seemed happy. Didn't share it with anybody outside of family. And then I think his family has even come out and said that he didn't share that diagnosis with anyone outside of his immediate family. So
yeah, it's interesting when a celebrity passes from a disease or a cancer that you didn't know about. Like Chadwick Boseman stands out as somebody like what huh?
Right?
Is it an accident? Oh no, he had cancer. Yep. And it's hard to wrap your mind around all of it, obviously, because you don't really know what they were going through. But sometimes, I can imagine there's probably a piece of not having everybody sympathize so publicly.
Right, you get to just live your life.
You get to just kind of live your life.
Like without
just be
people
like cloud over you.
And you kind of, for lack of a better term, go out with people still having positive thoughts about you instead of feeling bad for you. And then, when you're gone, we've watched all the clips this week and honoring him and remembering him. The countless. It's sad that some of the memes are the ones that come up first. Breaking his leg.
Yeah.
You're alive, pal.
The live promo with your mom.
You're half the man that I am, and I have half the brain that you do.
The memes
such a great
are countless, but there's no denying when it comes to just when you think professional wrestling and guys that just had the look.
Yep.
You think of Psycho Sid, you think of Sid Vicious. It's just like Sid Justice, the blonde, kind of little Jerry curl he had going on there, a little perm
going on.
He was a beast.
Also, a guy who just knew how to connect with a crowd. Like, the crowds always were just super into him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was I went back and watched Survivor Series '96. For that specific reason. I saw a tweet from Matt Cardona that said, I walked into MSG for Survivor Series 96 with the Sean zebra biker hat on. And
classic.
the moment Sid won, I threw it to the ground and went down into one knee as if I was Sid because he just hooked me.
Yeah.
And like watching that match back, the crowd was so hot for him. And you could see obviously when Sean came out, everybody loved Sean. And that was the height of everything. As that match went on, they just slowly turned on Sean. And by the end, the whole place popped for Sid.
Such a pop when he won. Like, was insane. You would think, if you didn't know anything other than the finish, you'd think he went in as the face.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a pop.
He just had the look, and he especially early on, late 80s, early 90s, you think of the golden era, like that's the guys that, Vince loved, right? He loved those big dudes, but he had the total package. He's basically, no pun intended, he was kind of everything that he wanted Lex Luger to be.
Yeah, I mean,
think about it.
Yeah. So
like gaining the audience's affection, really,
So there's rumor out there, I don't know how true this is or not, but I've seen multiple people say in shoot interviews, he was originally Vince's pick to be Hogan's replacement as like the top guy.
So
back
he was
in like the late night, and then Sid was like, "I'd rather just be a heel." He's like, "I think I work better as a heel. I don't want to be the face of the company."
Yep. He was the guy when Hogan jumped ship. He was gonna be given the ball to be that face, and he said, "Nope, I want to be a heel. I think I'm better as a heel." And even just the awareness, to say, "Okay, you're gonna give me Hogan 2.0." Who would have said no at that time, other than someone who was completely confident in their work and their ability to connect with that crowd still as a heel? Yeah, not enough credit, and I think for us, we don't underrate him, and I think, wrestling fans as a whole, but I think in a lot of places he is underrated.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Overall, what he did, his accolades, I mean, 2-time world champion, but so many different other accolades in the impact. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, when I think of Sid's gimmick, I think of how much he terrified me as a kid.
Yeah.
And that music, like, to start, and I think
good.
I think of him compared to Taker, right? Taker scared the shit out of me the same way he did. Taker scared the shit out of me because of the presentation and the gimmick.
The paranormal
Sid just scared the
aspect
shit out
of
of me
it.
because of what he looked like.
Exactly.
Like, he didn't need anything else.
Yeah.
Black trunks, black vest, black boots. That was it.
So I agree the same thing, except instead of Taker, it was Kane. Like,
Yeah.
Kane
Oh,
scared
yeah,
the shit out of me,
Kane-
but again, it was because
Kane
of how
scared
he
the shit out of me
looked
too. Yeah.
and a bit of his demeanor. But Sid, it was just his demeanor, his
facials,
face,
look,
his voice,
the way he
just
would go
everything.
up and down.
Yeah.
Yep. He had another great promo in the Alamo Dome.
Yeah.
And that same thing with Sean, where you could hear him echoing, and then he goes to the whisper, and then it was one of a kind, man. And speaking of Sean, like I mentioned that match with Vader, match. You mentioned that match at Survivor Series. That was supposed to be Vader in that spot.
Yeah.
And they had fought at SummerSlam, and Vader was supposed to be the guy. He fought at Survivor Series, and then ultimately a trilogy at WrestleMania where
it was still supposed to be at the Rumble, actually.
At the Rumble.
Yeah, because the Rumble was going to be in Shawn's hometown, so that's where he's going to
Yep.
always win the title back.
And after that first match at SummerSlam, Shawn went back and was like, I can't work with Vader for whatever reason. But he's like, but I want it to be Sid.
Yeah.
Put Sid in there. Sid's the guy. He can do it. And there's a lot to be said similar with the Hogan thing. So like you look through history, there were so many times where people were like, we need a guy who's the guy. Sid was the guy.
Yeah. I mean, Sid was going to be the SummerSlam 95 opponent for Shawn before they pivoted to the ladder match. That was also going to be Sid versus Shawn for the IC title.
Yeah.
We ended up getting some pretty iconic out of that.
With all due respect to Sid, we got a better match. But I mean, Shawn and Sid had incredible chemistry. The Survivor Series match and the Royal Rumble match are great matches.
And think of all the chemistry. And Shawn alluded to this in a tweet where he was like, a lot of the credit for HBK, the Heartbreak Kid, needs to be credited to Sid and his impact when Diesel moved on and then Sid jumped into that role and that whole kind of triangle between the three of them. Like, yeah, he deserves his credit in so many different facets, in so many different ways. Yeah. And then you hear people talk about him, and he seemed to be the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Because complete opposite of his
down to earth
presenting demeanor, but so nice, smile, happy. That's what everyone said about him up until he ultimately passed.
Right. Which also, based on some of the other stories you hear about him, totally makes sense. Like, it sounds like he almost never wanted to be a wrestler. He just did it and was like, yeah, why not? I'll go along with it. Because there's also always the story of like, he was supposed to be booked to be a world champ. He's like, well, I actually have softball this week, so I'm going to go do that instead.
Yeah, that was the thing. And I watched, I don't know if it was
Can't miss the beer league.
It was, I think it was Conrad and Eric Bischoff. I heard a clip, and Conrad was like, everyone says it's like softball, softball, softball. He's like, we see all these pictures of him as a grandpa and at home with family and everything. They're like, what if that was just his excuse? He just wanted to go home and be
right. Yeah,
that's
absolutely
and it's like
possible.
that probably makes some sense. Like he was just like, all right, I'm done. This is a easy, quote unquote excuse. Who knows? But like, I just want to go be with family and enjoy my life. And now in hindsight, thank God he did that and had that time and had that moment to be a father, grandfather, etc. So
it's entirely possible it was softball and his kids were just on the team with him. So like that's also very possible.
Is he in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. No. See, that
there was rumors he was going to go in this year, and then he didn't. For
I think there was
he's definitely got to go in now.
I don't know if it was a tweet from I think Sid, some sort of message from Sid, I believe, where he was like, I feel like I should be in there in the next couple of years. So I think next year he has to go. In
there. It's sad that it's after his death.
Yeah.
That's the shitty part. Of that perspective, but yeah, lost another legend. Weird to say, but at least and cancer fucking sucks. Fuck cancer. From the top, I'll scream that from any rooftop. But at least the amount of tragedy that we've had as wrestling fans and the way some of these wrestlers have gone out. It's a different perspective on it because he was still young. Early 60s, right? Was 63 years old. Still a young guy. But shout out to Sid, man. Yeah. Rest in peace, legend. Thank you for the memories. And the best part about being so impactful is that all your content going to live forever. So there's going to be you're going to be gaining new fans pretty much till the end of time. As people continue to consume all of the content on.
And he's still making it. I remember Joe Hendry came out and said that Sid had a huge impact. Joe Hendry said he changed his whole moveset once he saw Sid. So
great power bomb.
I mean, we'll get more into it as we discuss Raw and all the things that have happened. But there were also some nice tributes to him this week. So.
Yeah, that tribute was nice. Yep, they did a good job
for sure. So had to start with that. Had to start with the legend. Yeah.